Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all an update to my Cardfight Vanguard Almajestar deck profile for post-Moon Fangs and Cerulean Blaze. We got the new version of Almajestar Astroya Stella in the latest Cardfight Vanguard booster set, being the take for the new Dark States deck in the latest Cardfight Vanguard booster set. It is in addition to the original Almajestar deck, focusing on being able to have cards in your bind zone for the benefit of the different trigger units that you have in the bind zone for additional power of your units and then your Vanguard altogether, depending on how many cards are bound. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the ride deck, we have the energy generator with our starter still being the same ride line from the original Almajestar. The one Almajestar Pipus Mulchi. When rode upon, if you went second, draw a card. Our grade 1 is Almajestar Schwartz Sparta. When rode upon by Almajestar Tehran Dyna, soul charge 2. And if a critical was soul charge, draw a card. And on the rear guard, once per turn, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, bind a trigger unit from soul, and this unit gets plus 10,000 until end of turn. The added playstyle setup with our grade 2 Tehran Dyna, when rode upon by a unit with Estrella, or with this card and its card name, choose an Almajestar Schwartz Sparta from your soul and call that card and this card to rear guard, which makes the rear guard abilities valid for both of these cards, since they'll almost always be called out thanks to this unit skill. And on the rear guard, once per turn, if you have a Vanguard with Almajestar on its card name, +1, choose 2 trigger units from your drop, put them into your soul, and this unit gets plus 5,000 to its soul. So the soul buildup of all your triggers definitely does come in handy with our Vanguard still regardless, along with the one copy of the Almajestar Estrella Stella that we run in the ride deck. We run 3 additional copies in the main deck as well. On the Vanguard at the beginning of your main phase, if you did not ride this turn, discard a card from your hand, choose a card of the same card name as this unit from your bind zone, ride it as stand, and if you wrote a card, activate Persona Ride. So just having the additional option for your ride, discarding a card from your hand, choosing a card of the same card name from your bind zone as this card, and being able to utilize it for that ride. And then on Vanguard, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, +1, Soul Blast 3, bind all critical and cards with Estrella and its card name, Soul Blast for this cost, and perform all the following according to the total number of critical and cards with Estrella and their card name from the bind zone. If it's 1 or more, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it, and all your front row get +5. If it's 3 or more, it gets critical +1 and drive +1, and 5 or more, choose one of your rear guards and stand it. So having the additional restand of a rear guard gives you added pressure for multiple attacks, and then it also sets up the potential Stella that you'll use for a Persona Ride thereafter. For the other grade 3s, we're also running 4 copies of our Citri Chimera. When this unit's placed on rear guard, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Estrella and its card name, put a card from your hand to your soul, draw a card, and this unit gets +5 to end of turn, setting up more cards in our soul to then be able to then use for the Soul Blast cost for bind with Stella. And on the rear guard or guard circle, if your bind zone is a total of 1 or more critical and cards with Estrella and their card name, this unit gets plus 10,000 shield. And if it has a total of 3 or more, it also gets intercept, giving you that added shield power for this grade 3 to be intercepting as an additional defense option against your opponent. For the grade 2s, we're running 4 copies of Stingeborg Chimera. When the unit is placed on rear guard, if you have a Vanguard with Almajestar and its card name, choose a card from your drop, and you may put it into the soul. If your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater and you put a trigger unit with this effect, it gets +5, setting up more and more of the potential triggers that you can guard with to then use for the soul buildup. And on rear guard, when this unit stands by the ability of your Vanguard with Estrella and its card name, if your bind zone is 4 or more critical, it gets critical +1 to end of turn, adding an additional pressure to the card you may potentially want to restand thanks to your units as well. We're also running 4 copies of Griffith Chimera. When it's placed on rear guard, if you have a Vanguard with Almajestar, discard a card from your hand, look at 2 cards from the top of your deck, choose a card from among them, put it into your hand, and put the rest on the top of the deck or into soul, and this unit gets +5. So it's all about that setup that these cards can do, giving the additional power boost as well to them as an added bonus, just so you have more setup to make use of as well. With the last of the grade 2s being 4 copies of Kit's Peak Griffin. When placed on rear guard, if you have a Vanguard with Almajestar, choose 2 trigger units from your drop and put them into your soul. Just more setup for those cards into the soul. And on rear guard or guard circle, if your bind zone has a critical trigger, it gets +5 power and shield +5 as well. for the grade 1s, we're running 4 copies of Plutonic Prospector. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked or boosted. If you have a Vanguard with Almajestar and its card name, put it into the soul. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. Choose up to 1 grade 3 from among them. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle the deck. Having 2 options for search, whether it be our new grade 3 Arsa Tree Chimera or our Bico Stella. Having the search and add to hand, thanks to this grade 1. And from the guard circle, if your bind zone has 2 or more triggers, it gets plus 10,000 power. Linking use, once again, for the trigger setup for this card as an added defense measure. We're also running 4 copies of Clerical Star Demonic Lady Bitrons. When it's placed on rearguard from hand, you counter blast 1, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, choose a card from among them, put it into the hand, choose a card from among them, put it into the soul, and then discard the rest. More setup, adding cards to hand for a potential extension of plays just by placing this card from rearguard to hand, from rearguard, mix that up there, to rearguard from hand, and on the rearguard once per turn, if you have a Vanguard with Almajestar and its card name, Soul Blast 1 and Energy Blast 3, search your deck for up to 1 card with Astrea and its card name, or up to 1 critical, put it into the soul, and shuffle the deck. So not only does it set up your Bico Stella in the soul for the bind, which then can be used for a Persona ride the following turn, it also just gives you that setup for a potential critical as well to meet those numbers with this card. And then lastly, the 3 copies of Iram Capricornus. I know we got a new Dark States promo with the latest manga release. They're a little more difficult to get for people, so if you have the manga promo, you can place it in the spot. Otherwise, you can use Iram Capricornus. Just if you have a Vanguard with Almajestar, choose 1 trigger unit from your hand or drop, put it into the soul, and if you put 1 from the hand, draw a card. More setup, just providing a boost when it boosts and you have a Vanguard with Almajestar. With the rest of the grade 1s just being the Sentinel lineup of Ridicule Disruptor. If you have the Elementaria Sanctitude for this final spot, you can always place it in as the final one to go for in the deck as well. And then as for the trigger lineup, with criticals being one of the more important cards in the deck, we're running the full number of 8 criticals. And with the Stem Deviate just being an additional option to put into Soul. For that, my buddy Nick definitely does want to run 4 in this deck, but Lightning Elemental Pachiri is just a placeholder until he gets his 4th copy. So then you always have the option to boost with this card, putting it into the Soul, and then having that option for the Soul Blast bind of your Vanguard as well. With the next trigger being the 3 draw triggers as well. Once again, since I said we're maxing out the criticals for the bound power, so 3 draw just for more hand consistency on top of everything else, with the last being the 4 heals, just running the generic lineups since we had the new heals in the latest booster pack as well, and our over trigger being Spiritual King of Ignition Val Newt for the added restand unit power until end of turn. Choose a card and draw a card. Choose up to 1 unit from your hand. Call it to rearguard. You can choose a rearguard and it gets the option once per turn at the end of the battle attack to restand it for added pressure, depending on if that restood unit attacked or not already. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. A very interesting look when these units get brand new grade 3s, but a good majority of the cards remain the same for the deck altogether. And until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.